You ever be sitting there and wondering, I should be doing something right now. Let me maybe do my schoolwork or, get something done today. We seem to equate our lives to productivity, and if we're not doing something, we're not living. But that's simply not true. We're not put on this earth to just be productive. That's kind of like a slave mentality. If we quantify our time and our effort and our life to work alone, I mean, that kind of sounds like a slave to me. And it's great to grind and work very hard and maybe get a lot of cash and stuff like that. But we shouldn't really make it our top priority because that's not the reason why we're here. If money was able to give you happiness and productivity could guarantee you money, right? Then all the rich people in the world would be happy. But, like that's not true. We tend to sacrifice our, family time, friend time, um, hobbies, and a bunch of stuff that we would want to do and rather be doing instead with productivity. A race that never ends, by the way. Like once you do something, once you fix something, there's always going to be another thing to fix. I'm a car guy, and if you are, you'd relate to this. But you fix one problem on your car, and now you have a million more. There's no such thing as a finished project car. You'll always be fixing on it. No matter what you fix, there will always be 100 more things to do after that. So I've kind of noticed that recently. I've been spending a lot of money on it and whatnot, fixing up a lot of different things. And then I'm like, ooh, I can do this and I can do that. And I'm like, oh, it's almost finished. Let me do this. Let me, make a list and see where we're at. And it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. I mean, you can do infinite amount of things, and that can apply to basically everything. But the moral of the story is that we're supposed to enjoy every single moment. We're not supposed to just get stuff done, and which is great. We kind of are. It is important to be able to prioritize stuff like that, but it shouldn't be our number one priority because that's a fight that we'll never win. But don't let productivity confuse you with your meaning of life because productivity is not the meaning of life. There's so much more to enjoy. It's all about just enjoying those little moments, being excited about the big moments, you know, laughing, crying and stuff like that. But, it's not about get something done and move on to the next thing because like I said before, that's just kind of like a slave mentality to have. But yeah, I've needed this advice, especially for myself, because I just keep on, wanting to get done with stuff, and I feel super unproductive during the day. And I look back on it, and I'm like, wow, I just didn't really do much of anything today. But if you're procrastinating something and that's getting in the way of, your actual life or whatever, I think that that would be important to take the discipline to do, right? But we're not supposed to live for productivity and just crossing off a to-do list every single day until our life is perfect because it's not going to be. There is no scenario or, last check mark on the checklist to get stuff done. But I do think that that is pretty fun, but again, you have to kind of go into it with that perspective. you know, checking things off the to-do list and being productive is honestly like a way to enjoy life. But as long as you're using it to enjoy life, then you're using productivity to help you and not, make you worse. But yeah, I hope this provided some like value to you guys and maybe a different perspective to look at life on. It's definitely a good reminder. But we're not supposed to be lazy, but we're not supposed to be chasing after a never-ending cycle just to, replace it with our meaning of life.